The moment of truth came when Fleet Marshal Tor Grimfang, commanding a battle group of 500 ships, made a decision that nearly changed the course of history. Against Admiral Kethvaran's orders to maintain distance, Grimfang ordered his ships to move closer to the human vessel. "We cannot show weakness to these aliens," Grimfang declared to his subordinates. "The Empire's reputation depends on our strength." Captain Dae-hyun Kim watched on the Soul's Pride's main screen as hundreds of alien warships began closing in from multiple directions. The largest of them bristled with weapons that could easily destroy his exploration ship. "Captain," Commander Boram Park called from her tactical station, "they're moving into attack formation. Energy readings are spiking across their entire fleet. Hana, try to contact them," Dae-hyun ordered. Lieutenant Hana Choi worked frantically at her communications console. "I'm trying, sir, but they're not responding to hails." Dr. Woo-jin Lee studied his sensors. "Captain, the lead ship is charging what looks like a plasma cannon. If they fire that at us, we're dead," Boram finished grimly. Marshal Grimfang's flagship, the Vengeful Strike, powered up its main weapon, a massive plasma cannon capable of melting through the thickest armor. From the Marshal's perspective, this was a test. If the humans were really as powerful as they seemed, they would defend themselves. If they weren't, they would be destroyed, and the threat to the Empire would end. "Target their engines," Grimfang ordered. "Disable them first, then we'll see what these peaceful explorers really are." The plasma cannon fired. The bright green beam of energy shot across space toward the Soul's Pride. On the human ship, alarm screamed as their sensors detected the incoming attack. "Incoming plasma beam," Boram shouted. "Impact in 3 seconds." But the Soul's Pride had something the Velkans didn't expect. The shield modifications that engineer Tae Ho Yoon had made weren't just cosmetic. They had actually improved the ship's defensive capabilities. The plasma beam struck the human ship's shields and stopped. The energy that should have melted through their hull was absorbed and dispersed harmlessly around them. On the Velkan flagship, sensor operators stared in shock at their readings. "Marshal," the weapons officer reported, "direct hit but no damage. Their shields absorbed a full-power plasma strike like it was nothing." Marshal Grimfang felt his confidence evaporate. The Vengeful Strike's main cannon was one of the most powerful weapons in the Velkan fleet. If it couldn't even scratch this human ship, what kind of technology were they dealing with? But on the Soul's Pride, Captain Dae-hyun was angry. These aliens had just fired on his ship without warning, putting his entire crew at risk. The diplomatic approach had failed, and now it was time to show these aliens that humanity wasn't helpless. "Tae-ho," he called to the engine room. "Can you give me full power to all systems?" "Already on it, Captain," came the reply. "Boram, I want a demonstration of our capabilities, something that shows we could fight back if we wanted to, but that we're choosing not to." "What did you have in mind, sir?" Boram asked. Dae-hyun pointed at the tactical display, which showed a large asteroid floating nearby. "Our mining lasers. Show them what human precision looks like." Boram smiled. "Understood, Captain." The Soul's Pride turned toward the asteroid and its mining laser arrays came online. These weren't weapons. They were tools designed to extract valuable minerals from space rocks. But to an outside observer, they might as well have been the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. The human ship fired multiple laser beams simultaneously, each one hitting the asteroid with surgical precision. But instead of destroying the rock, the lasers carved intricate patterns into its surface. Mathematical equations, star charts, and even artistic designs appeared as if drawn by an invisible hand. The message was clear. We could have destroyed your ships just as precisely, but we chose to create art instead. Across the Velkan fleet, crews watched in amazement and terror. The human ship had just demonstrated targeting and weapons control beyond anything they had ever seen. Each laser beam had hit exactly where it was intended, with no wasted energy and perfect accuracy. "By the ancient gods," whispered one Velkan gunner, "they could have carved us up piece by piece." Marshal Grimfang stared at the decorated asteroid and felt fear creep up his spine. His most powerful weapon had been useless against their shields, and they had responded by showing that their mining tools had better precision than his best targeting computers. "All ships, pull back," he ordered. "Maintain maximum distance." On Admiral Varan's flagship, the Admiral watched the retreat with mixed feelings. On one hand, he was relieved that the crisis had been diffused. On the other hand, The demonstration had proved that the humans were indeed as dangerous as their worst fears suggested. "Admiral?" his communications officer called out. "The human ship is hailing us." "Put them through." Captain Dae-hyun's voice came through the speakers, and this time there was steel in his tone. "Admiral Voran, one of your commanders just opened fire on my ship without provocation. My crew could have been killed. I want an explanation." Admiral Voran had spent his entire career as a military commander, but he had never been in a situation quite like this. The humans had just proved they could defend themselves and fight back if necessary, but they were still trying to talk instead of attack. "Captain Kim," Voran replied carefully. "Marshal Grimfang acted without authorization. The Velkan Empire does not wish to begin a war with your people." "Then let's make sure that doesn't happen," Dae-hyun said. "I propose a meeting between representatives of our two civilizations. Face to face, no weapons, just talking." There was a long pause. In Velkan culture, meeting with an enemy face to face was either a sign of great courage or great stupidity. But these humans weren't behaving like enemies. They had shown they could fight, but they preferred to talk. "I will need to consult with my superiors," Admiral Voran said finally. "Take all the time you need. We'll be right here." The discussion that followed on Velkara Prime was unlike any in the Empire's history. Emperor Zack Ironwill sat on his throne, listening as his advisors debated whether to meet with the humans or prepare for war. They could have destroyed Marshal Grimfang's entire battle group, Intelligence Chief Vel Darkseer reported. Instead, they carved pictures in an asteroid. "This is not the behavior of conquerors. Or it's the behavior of very confident conquerors," High Command Tor Blackhand countered. "They're showing us they could destroy us whenever they choose." "Either way," said Science Advisor Kyle Brightmind, "they're trying to communicate. If they wanted us dead, we would be dead already." Emperor Ironwill considered the situation. In his long life, he had conquered many worlds and defeated many enemies. But he had never faced an enemy who might be stronger than the Velkan Empire. The smart thing to do was to treat these humans as equals, at least until he understood them better. "We will meet with them," the Emperor decided, but on neutral ground and with appropriate precautions. 3 days later, a small Velkan shuttle approached the Soul's Pride. The meeting would take place aboard the human ship, with Admiral Voran and a small diplomatic team representing the Empire. As the Velkan delegation boarded the human vessel, they were surprised by what they found. The ship was clean and efficient, but it wasn't designed for war. The corridors were wide enough for normal conversation, not rapid troop movement. The equipment was sophisticated but clearly built for exploration and research. Captain Dae-hyun met them in the ship's main conference room, accompanied by his senior officers. The first thing Admiral Voran noticed was how young the human crew looked compared to Velkan military leaders. The second thing he noticed was that they weren't carrying weapons. "Welcome aboard the Soul's Pride," Captain Dae-hyun said through the translation system that Hana had perfected. "I hope this is the beginning of a long friendship between our peoples." Admiral Voran studied the human captain. Dae-hyun was smaller than most Velkans, but there was something in his eyes that spoke of quiet confidence and intelligence. "Captain Kim," Voran said, "my people have many questions about your civilization, and we have questions about yours," Dae-hyun replied. "But before we begin, I want to make something clear. The Terran Federation is not your enemy. We didn't come here to conquer or destroy. We came here by accident, and we'd like to turn that accident into an opportunity." "What kind of opportunity?" Dr. Woo Jin Lee spoke up. "Knowledge sharing, cultural exchange, trade. There's so much we could learn from each other." Admiral Voran was quiet for a moment. In his experience, when two civilizations met, one conquered the other. But these humans seemed to be suggesting something different, cooperation instead of domination. "Your ship broke through our greatest defense like it was nothing," Voran said. "Your weapon's precision is beyond our technology. Why should the Velkan Empire trust you?" Commander Boram Park answered. "Because we're not pointing those weapons at you. We could have fought when your marshal attacked us, but we chose to make art instead. That should tell you something about who we are." And in that moment, Admiral Voran began to understand. The humans weren't showing off their power to intimidate the Velkans. They were showing that they had power, but chose not to use it for destruction. The situation was spiraling out of control. Captain Dae-hyun Kim stood in the center of the Soul's Pride's bridge, watching as their sensors detected more alien ships arriving every hour. The count was now over 10,000 vessels forming a massive sphere around their single human ship. "This is insane," Commander Boram Park said, studying her tactical displays. "They've brought enough firepower to destroy 100 ships like ours, which means either they're very paranoid, or they think we're incredibly dangerous," Dr. Wu Jinli observed from his science station. Lieutenant Hana Choi looked up from her communications console. "Captain, I'm making progress on their language. The translation software is starting to pick up patterns. But what I'm learning is worrying." "What do you mean?" Daehyun asked. "They keep talking about something called the Great Threat and Planet Killers. I think they believe we're some kind of super weapon." Daehyun shook his head. "We're an exploration ship. Our biggest weapons are mining lasers. They don't know that," Wu Jin pointed out. "From their perspective, we appeared out of nowhere, broke through their strongest defense, and demonstrated advanced technology they don't understand." Engineer Tai Ho Yoon's voice came through the ship's communication system from the engine room. "Captain, I've been thinking about our situation. These aliens seem to be a warrior culture, right? Maybe we can use that." "How do you mean, Tai Ho?" "Warrior cultures usually respect strength. They're not afraid of us because we're weak. They're afraid because they think we're strong. Maybe we can work with that instead of against it." Boram studied the alien fleet formations on her screen. "Tai-Ho might be right, Captain. Look at how they're positioned. This isn't an attack formation, it's a defensive one. They're not trying to trap us. They're trying to protect themselves from us." Daehyun considered this. In all his years of space exploration, he had learned that understanding another culture's perspective was the key to successful communication. Maybe they had been approaching this wrong. "What do we know about their culture so far?" he asked. Wu Jin pulled up his analysis. "Based on their ship designs and behavior patterns, they're definitely militaristic. Their technology focuses on overwhelming force rather than efficiency. They solve problems by using more power, more ships, more weapons. And they've probably been the dominant force in this region for a long time," Hana added. "Their communication patterns suggest they're used to being obeyed without question. So they've never faced anyone who could match them," Daehyun realized. "We might be the first equal they've ever encountered. Or the first superior," Boram said grimly. Meanwhile, on the Velkan homeworld of Velkara Prime, Emperor Zach Ironwill was holding an emergency council meeting. The great throne room was filled with military commanders, scientists, and advisors, all trying to understand the threat facing their empire. "Tell me about these humans," the Emperor commanded. Intelligence Chief Vel Darkseer stepped forward. "We know very little, Your Majesty. Their ship appeared from a direction where our long-range scouts have never detected any civilization. Either they came from very far away, or they have technology that can hide entire star systems." "What about their military capabilities?" High Command Tor Blackhand answered. "Unknown, but potentially devastating. They broke through the Great Barrier like it was nothing. Their targeting systems are faster and more accurate than ours, and their energy patterns suggest they have weapons from the old legends. The Star Killers," the Emperor said quietly. "Yes, Your Majesty. If the legends are true, those weapons could destroy our worlds." Emperor Ironwill was silent for a long moment. He had ruled the Velkan Empire for over a century, expanding their territory and crushing their enemies. But he had never faced a situation like this. "What do our analysts think these humans want?" he asked. "That's unclear," Vel replied. "They claim to come in peace, but their actions suggest preparation for war. They've demonstrated superior technology but haven't attacked. It's possible they're studying us, looking for weaknesses before launching their main assault. Or," said science advisor Kyle Brightmind, the only civilian in the room, "they really do come in peace, and we're misunderstanding their intentions." The military commanders scoffed at this suggestion, but Emperor Ironwill held up a hand for silence. "Explain your thinking, advisor. Consider their behavior, Your Majesty. If they wanted to attack us, why send only one ship? If they have the technology to break our barriers so easily, why not bring a fleet? And why are they trying to communicate instead of simply attacking?" "Because they're gathering intelligence for their invasion," Tor said firmly. "Maybe," Kyle replied. "But what if they're just explorers who accidentally stumbled into our territory? What if this is all a misunderstanding?" The room erupted in arguments, with military leaders insisting the humans were a threat, and the science advisor suggesting they might be peaceful. Emperor Ironwill listened to both sides, but his experience told him to prepare for the worst. Back on the Soul's Pride, Captain Dae-hyun was trying to make sense of new information that Woo Jin had discovered. Captain, I've been analyzing the energy signatures from their ships, and I found something interesting, the scientist said. Their technology is powerful, but it's not actually more advanced than ours. It's just different. Different how? They use brute force solutions. Massive engines, huge power plants, thick armor, but their computers are slower than ours. Their sensors are less sensitive. Their weapons are powerful but not very precise. Boram looked thoughtful. So they're like a strong person with a big club, while we're like a skilled person with a precise sword? That's a good analogy, Woo Jin agreed. In a direct fight, they might win through sheer power. But in terms of actual technological sophistication, we might be ahead of them. That could explain why they're so afraid of us, Hana suggested. Our technology probably looks like magic to them. Dae-hyun made a decision. Hana, I want you to focus on establishing clear communication. Use everything we've learned about their language and psychology. Make it clear that we're peaceful explorers, not invaders. Yes, sir, but Captain, what if they don't believe us? Then we'll have to prove it. Over the next several hours, Hana worked with the ship's computer to create a more sophisticated translation program. Finally, she achieved a breakthrough. Captain, I'm getting clear communication from their flagship. Put it on speakers. The voice that came through was deep and authoritative, clearly belonging to someone in command. The translation was still imperfect, but the meaning was clear enough. Unknown vessel, you are in violation of Velkan Empire territory. Identify your purpose and submit to inspection or face the consequences. Dae-hyun took a deep breath. This was humanity's first real conversation with an alien species. How he responded could determine whether the future held peace or war. This is Captain Dae-hyun, Kim of the Terran Federation ship Soul's Pride. We are peaceful, explorers who accidentally entered your territory when our drive malfunctioned. We mean no harm to your empire and wish only to establish friendly relations. There was a long pause before the response came. You claim to be peaceful, yet you carry Starkiller weapons. You claim to be explorers, yet you come from a direction where no civilization should exist. Explain these contradictions. Dae-hyun looked at his crew in confusion. Starkiller weapons? What are they talking about? Woo Jin quickly ran a diagnostic on their systems. Captain, I think I know what's happening. The shield modifications that Taeho made must be creating energy patterns that they recognize from their history or mythology. Are we actually dangerous to them? Taehyun asked. Not in the way they think, Woo Jin replied. But our technology might be advanced enough that they can't tell the difference between our peaceful systems and their legendary superweapons. Dae-hyun realized they were facing a critical moment. These aliens thought humanity possessed weapons of mass destruction. How he handled this misunderstanding could determine the fate of both civilizations. He activated the communication system again. Admiral, we do not possess the weapons you fear. What you're detecting are our defensive systems, modified due to damage from passing through your barrier. We understand your caution, but we are not your enemy. The response came faster this time, and the tone was slightly different. Captain Kim, your words speak of peace, but your presence speaks of power. The Velkan Empire has ruled this space for 1,000 years. We have never encountered a species that could match our strength. Your very existence changes the balance of power in this galaxy. And in those words, Captain Dae-hyun heard something he hadn't expected. Not just fear, but a hint of respect. Maybe there was hope for a peaceful resolution after all. The countdown reached 0. Captain Dae-hyun held his breath, waiting for the alien weapons to fire. But instead of destruction, the Soul's Pride received a new signal. This time it wasn't just mathematical sequences. There were what sounded like words mixed with universal symbols. Hana, what are you getting? Dae-hyun asked. Lieutenant Hana Choi worked frantically at her communication station. It's a language, Captain, but it's being filtered through some kind of translation system. I think they're trying to talk to us. What are they saying? It's broken, sir. I'm getting fragments. Something about identification. They want to know who we are and where we come from. Send back our standard first contact package. Dae-hyun ordered. Ship name, species designation, peaceful intentions. Hana typed rapidly. Sending now, sir. On the flagship of the Velkan fleet, Admiral Keth Voron studied the response from the alien ship. His translation computers were working hard to decode the strange language, but the results were confusing. What does it say? He asked his communication officer. The ship is called Soul's Pride, sir. They claim to represent something called the Terran Federation. And they say, they come in peace. Admiral Varan's forearms tensed. They come for peace? Not in peace? The translation is uncertain, sir. It could mean either. But Admiral Varan's experience with conquering other species made him suspicious. In my experience, when someone says they come for peace, they usually mean they come to take peace away. They're here to destroy our peace. He turned to his tactical officer. How many more ships do we have coming? Another 2,000 will arrive within the hour, sir. High Command has ordered the entire fleet to this position. Good. If these aliens think they can threaten the Empire with one ship, they're about to learn otherwise. Meanwhile, Dr. Woojin Lee was studying the alien fleet from his science station. Captain, I'm learning a lot about these aliens just from watching their ships. What can you tell me? Daehyun asked. They're definitely a military culture. Every ship has heavy weapons and thick armor. But their formation patterns are interesting. They're staying far away from us like they're afraid to get too close. Commander Boram Park looked up from her tactical display. That's what I noticed too. For a fleet this size, they're being very cautious. If they wanted to destroy us, they could have done it already. Maybe they're studying us. Like we're studying them, suggested Hana. Or maybe they're afraid of what we might do if they get too close, Woojin added. Think about it. We broke through their main defense system. From their perspective, we might be incredibly dangerous. Suddenly, alarms rang on the bridge. Captain! Boram called out. One of their smaller ships just broke formation. It's moving toward us. How close? 500 kilometers and closing. It's much smaller than the others, probably a scout ship. Daehyun watched the approaching ship on his screen. Maybe they're trying to get a better look at us. Hana, try to communicate with them directly. Yes, sir. But as the alien scout ship came closer, the Soul's Pride's automated defense systems activated. The ship's computer identified the approaching vessel as a potential threat and locked targeting sensors onto it. On the Velkan scout ship, pilot Jex Swiftfly suddenly found his instruments going crazy. Warning lights flashed all over his control panel. What's happening? He called to his ship's computer. The alien vessel has locked weapons onto us, the computer replied in a calm voice. Recommend immediate evasive action. Jex felt his blood turn cold. The alien ship had locked onto him faster than any targeting system he'd ever seen. His own ship's sensors couldn't even detect exactly what kind of weapons were pointed at him. Base, this is Scout 7, he called frantically. The alien ship has me targeted. Their targeting system is incredibly fast. Admiral Varan received the message and felt his worst fears confirmed. They locked onto our scout in seconds? What kind of targeting technology are we dealing with? Unknown, sir, his tactical officer replied. Our scout reports that he can't even identify their weapon types. Their technology is beyond our understanding. Pull the scout back immediately, Varan ordered, and inform all ships the alien vessel has demonstrated superior targeting capabilities. Maintain maximum distance. On the Soul's Pride, Captain Daehyun was confused by the alien ship's sudden retreat. Why did they run away? He asked. We weren't threatening them. Captain, Boram said, checking her systems. Our automatic targeting system activated when that ship approached. It's a standard defensive protocol. Did we actually target them? Just a sensor lock, sir. Nothing dangerous. But they might not know that. Woojin shook his head. From their perspective, we just demonstrated incredibly fast and accurate targeting on their scout ship. They probably think we have some kind of super advanced weapons system. Great, Daehyun muttered. We're trying to make friends and instead we're scaring them. But the situation was about to get much worse. Engineer Taeho Yoon was working in the engine room, trying to repair the damage caused by their passage through the energy barrier. As he worked, he made adjustments to the ship's power systems and shields. Captain, Taeho called through the communication system. I'm doing some maintenance on our defensive systems. You might see some fluctuations in our shield patterns. Understood, Taeho. Keep working. But what Taeho didn't know was that his shield modifications created energy patterns that the Velkans recognized from their own ancient history. On the Velkan flagship, the sensor officer suddenly went pale. Admiral, the alien ship's energy patterns just changed. Changed how? Sir, they match the legendary descriptions of the Starkiller weapons from the old myths. The patterns are exactly the same. Admiral Varan felt fear creep up his spine. Every Velkan child knew the stories of the Starkillers, ancient weapons that could destroy entire planets. Most adults thought they were just legends, but the energy patterns his sensors were showing matched the descriptions perfectly. Are you certain? Yes, sir. The frequency modulations, the energy spikes, even the harmonic resonance. It's exactly what the old stories describe. Admiral Varan made a decision that would change the course of the entire encounter. Send an emergency message to High Command. Tell them the alien ship is armed with Starkiller weapons. This is no longer a border incident. This is a threat to the entire Empire. Sir, are you sure? Starkillers are just legends. Would you bet the Empire on that? Varan demanded. Within hours, the message reached Emperor Zack Ironwill on Velkara Prime. The ancient Emperor listened to the report with growing alarm. Starkillers? He said to High Command Tor Blackhand. Those are children's stories. Maybe, Your Majesty, Tor replied. But our sensors don't lie. The energy patterns match the ancient descriptions exactly. Emperor Ironwill was old enough to remember stories told by his grandfather, who had lived during the time when the Starkiller legends were first recorded. According to those stories, the weapons could crack planets in half and turn stars into weapons. If these aliens possess such weapons, the Emperor said slowly, then we may be facing the end of our empire. What are your orders, Your Majesty? Double the fleet. Send every available ship. If they have Starkillers, we need overwhelming numbers to have any chance of survival. Back on the Soul's Pride, the crew was watching in amazement as more and more alien ships appeared on their sensors. How many now? Daehyun asked. Over 5,000, Captain, Boram replied. And more are coming. At this rate, they'll have their entire military here within a day. Their entire military? For one ship? That's what it looks like, sir. Hana looked up from her communication station. Captain, I'm intercepting more of their communications. I can't translate much, but I keep hearing the same phrase over and over. What phrase? Something that sounds like Starkiller. They keep saying Starkiller. Wu Jin frowned. Starkiller? What could that mean? Maybe it's their name for us, Hana suggested. Or maybe it's what they think our ship is. Daehyun stared at the growing alien fleet on his screen. 5,000 ships and counting, all because of one human exploration vessel. Either these aliens were incredibly paranoid, or they thought the Soul's Pride was much more dangerous than it actually was. Hana, keep trying to establish proper communication. We need to clear up whatever misunderstanding is happening here. Yes, sir, but Captain, what if they don't want to talk? What if they decide we're too dangerous to let live? Daehyun looked around at his crew. They were brave people, but they were far from home and facing impossible odds. If this situation continued to escalate, there might be no way to avoid a fight they couldn't possibly win. Then we'll have to hope that our reputation for being dangerous is scarier than actually fighting us would be, he said quietly. But as the alien fleet continued to grow, and as the misunderstandings continued to pile up, Captain Daehyun began to wonder if they had accidentally started a war that could destroy both civilizations. The message from Admiral Keth Varan reached Velkan High Command within hours. In the massive war room on the capital world of Velkara Prime, military leaders gathered around a huge holographic display showing their empire's borders. The red dot indicating the barrier breach blinked like a warning beacon. High Command Tor Blackhand, the Empire's supreme military leader, stood 8 feet tall with gray skin marked by battle scars. He had led the Velkan forces for 50 years, crushing rebellion after rebellion, but as he stared at the tactical display, his 4 hands clenched into fists. Explain this to me again, he said to the intelligence officer standing nearby. Intelligence Chief Vel Darkseer, smaller than most Velkans but known for his sharp mind, stepped forward. One ship, sir. It came through the Great Barrier like the barrier wasn't even there. Our sensors show technology we don't recognize. One ship did this? Tor asked, pointing at the display. Are you telling me that our greatest defense, powered by an entire star's energy, was defeated by a single vessel? That's what the reports say, sir, Vel answered carefully. Admiral Varan's people have confirmed the readings multiple times. Around the room, other military commanders whispered among themselves. The Velkan Empire had spent centuries building the Great Barrier. It was supposed to keep out any threat while they expanded and conquered in the other direction. The barrier had never been tested by a real enemy, but their scientists had assured them it was impenetrable. What do we know about this ship? Tor demanded. Very little, Vel admitted. It's roughly the size of a heavy cruiser, but the design is completely unknown. The energy signatures don't match any technology in our databases. And sir, there's something else. What? When our sensors try to scan the ship in detail, they get blocked. We can see it, but we can't see inside it. Either they have very advanced shielding or their hull is made of materials we don't understand. Tor felt his blood run cold. The Velkan Empire had conquered 12 different alien species over the past 5 centuries. Each time they had studied their enemy's technology and added it to their own knowledge. But this ship was completely unknown. Could this be a scout ship? Asked Fleet Marshal Tor Grimfang, another senior commander. Maybe there are more coming? That's what we have to assume, Tor said. If one ship can break through the barrier, there might be a whole fleet behind it. Vel pulled up another display. Sir, I recommend we treat this as a potential invasion. This unknown species might be testing our defenses. Agreed, Tor said. Send orders to all border fleets. I want every available ship moved to the breach sector. If this is an invasion, we'll crush it before it can begin. How many ships, sir? Marshal Grimfang asked. All of them. Every warship in the Empire. I want 50,000 vessels in that sector within 2 days. The room fell silent. 50,000 warships was the entire Velkan military. They had never deployed their full force before, not even during the Great Rebellion 30 years ago. Sir, Vel said carefully. That seems like a large response to one ship. Tor's eyes flashed with anger. One ship that defeated our greatest defense. If they can do that easily, what else can they do? What if their weapons are as advanced as their propulsion? What if they can destroy planets? Meanwhile, aboard the Soul's Pride, Captain Dae-hyun was watching his tactical display with growing concern. More and more alien ships kept appearing on their sensors, all heading in their direction. How many now, Bo-ram? He asked his tactical officer. Commander Bo-ram Park studied her instruments. Over 300 ships and climbing, Captain. They're coming from all directions, small ones, big ones, and some that are absolutely massive. Any sign they want to communicate? Dae-hyun asked Lieutenant Hana Choi. I'm sending out standard peace signals on all frequencies, Hana replied. Universal mathematical sequences, peaceful intentions, broadcasts, everything I can think of. But I'm not getting any response. Dr. Woo Jin Lee looked up from his science station. Captain, I'm studying their ship designs. Their technology is interesting. Very powerful, but in a different way than ours. How so? They use brute force approaches. Massive engines, huge weapons, thick armor. It's effective, but not elegant. They seem to solve problems by throwing more power at them, rather than finding efficient solutions. Engineer Tai Ho Yoon's voice came from the engine room. Captain, I've got our FTL drive working again, but barely. The barrier did something to our systems. We can probably make one jump, but I can't guarantee we'll have power for a second one. Noted, Taeho. Keep working on it. Bo-ram frowned at her displays. Captain, there's something odd about these alien ships. They're keeping their distance. Most of them are staying at least 1,000 kilometers away. Maybe they're being cautious, Dae-hyun suggested. Or maybe they're afraid, Woo Jin said. Think about it from their perspective. We just broke through what was probably their main defense like it was made of paper. They don't know what else we can do. On Velkara Prime, Emperor Zack Ironwill sat on his throne, listening to reports from his military commanders. The Emperor was ancient by Velkan standards, over 200 years old, and had seen the Empire grow from a single world to a galactic power. Your Majesty, Tor Blackhand said, bowing before the throne. We have a situation that requires your attention. I've heard the reports, Emperor Ironwill said in a voice like grinding stone. One ship. Tell me how one ship has caused this much panic in my military. The barrier was our absolute defense, Your Majesty. If it can be breached so easily, then we may be facing a superior force. The Emperor leaned forward. Superior to us? We have conquered worlds, Tor. We have enslaved entire species. Are you telling me that one ship makes us inferior? Not inferior, Your Majesty, but perhaps not as dominant as we thought. Emperor Ironwill was quiet for a long moment. The Velkan Empire had grown powerful by always being the strongest force in any conflict. They had never faced an enemy who might be equal to them, let alone superior. What do you recommend? The Emperor asked. Full military mobilization. Assume this is the beginning of an invasion and respond accordingly. Show strength immediately. And if it's not an invasion, then we show this unknown species that the Velkan Empire is not to be underestimated. Either they retreat or we destroy them. Back in space, the Soul's Pride was now surrounded by over 1,000 alien ships. The formation was clearly military, with larger vessels in the center and smaller, faster ships forming a perimeter. They're definitely not here to welcome us, Bo-ram observed. Any luck with communications, Hana? Daehyun asked. Still nothing, Captain. But I'm picking up a lot of communication traffic between their ships. They're definitely talking to each other about us. Can you translate any of it? Working on it, but their language is completely unknown. It might take days to even start understanding it. Woojin studied his sensors. Captain, I'm reading massive energy buildups from several of their ships. It looks like they're charging weapons. Daehyun felt his stomach tighten. How massive? Big enough to vaporize us, sir. Shields up, red alert, Daehyun ordered. Alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Captain, Hana said suddenly, I'm getting something. It's not speech, but it looks like a mathematical sequence. They might be trying to communicate. Put it on speakers. The bridge filled with strange tones and beeps, clearly artificial but following some kind of pattern. It's a countdown, Woojin realized. They're giving us a countdown. To what? Daehyun asked. Probably to when they start shooting, Boram said grimly. Daehyun looked around at his crew. They were good people, but they were explorers, not warriors. The Soul's Pride had defensive systems, but it wasn't built for combat against an entire fleet. Hana, send back the same mathematical sequence, but add our own peaceful contact protocols to it. Show them we understand, but that we're not hostile. Yes, sir. As Hana sent the message, the alien fleet's formation shifted slightly. More ships were arriving every minute, and the countdown continued. Captain, Taeho called from engineering. If we're going to run, we need to do it soon. I can't keep the FTL drive ready much longer. Daehyun stared at the tactical display. Running would probably save his crew, but it would also leave these aliens thinking that humans were either weak or hostile. First contact was too important to mess up. Not yet, Taeho. Let's see if we can make friends first. But as the countdown reached its final numbers, and the alien weapons powered up to full charge, Daehyun wondered if he had just doomed his entire crew. Captain Daehyun Kim stood on the bridge of the Soul's Pride, watching the stars through the main screen. His ship had been exploring the far edges of known space for 3 months now. The Terran Federation wanted to map new systems and find resources for the growing human colonies. It was quiet work, but Daehyun liked it that way. Captain, we're getting some strange readings ahead, said Dr. Woojin Lee from his science station. The young scientist had joined this mission to study deep space phenomena. His eyes were fixed on his instruments and his face looked worried. What kind of readings? Daehyun asked, walking over to look at the data. It's like a wall of energy, sir. Very dense, very powerful. I've never seen anything like it. Woojin pointed at his screen, which showed a massive barrier of unknown energy blocking their path. Commander Boram Park, the ship's tactical officer, looked up from her station. Could be a natural formation. Space is full of weird energy fields. Maybe, Woojin said, but he didn't sound sure. The pattern is too regular, too organized. This looks artificial to me. Lieutenant Hana Choi, who handled communications, turned in her chair. Should we try scanning it more closely, Captain? Daehyun thought for a moment. The Federation had sent them out here to explore and gather information. This energy barrier was definitely something new and interesting. Yes, but carefully. Take us closer, but keep our distance. I don't want any surprises. The Soul's Pride moved forward slowly. As they got closer, the energy barrier looked even more impressive. It stretched as far as their sensors could detect, like a wall across space itself. The energy readings were enormous. This thing is huge, Hana said, studying her instruments. It goes on for light years in every direction. Someone built this, Woojin said with certainty. The energy patterns are too controlled to be natural. This is technology, but it's unlike anything humans have ever made. Engineer Taeho Yoon called from the engine room through the ship's communication system. Captain, our FTL drive is acting strange. The energy from that barrier is interfering with our systems. How bad is it, Taeho? Daehyun asked. Not dangerous yet, but the drive is trying to sync with the barrier's frequency. I've never seen this happen before. It's like the barrier is calling to our FTL system. Boram frowned. That doesn't sound good. Maybe we should back away and report this to Federation Command. Daehyun was about to agree when alarms started ringing throughout the ship. Red lights flashed on every control panel. What's happening? He demanded. The FTL drive is overloading. Taeho's voice came through the speakers, filled with panic. I can't shut it down. The barrier's energy is feeding back into our systems. All stop, Daehyun ordered. Cut all power to the drive. I'm trying, but it won't respond. Taeho shouted back. The ship shook as the FTL drive built up more and more power. Through the main screen, they could see space itself bending around them. The energy barrier ahead started glowing brighter. "Captain, we're going to jump," Boram said, reading her instruments. "The drive is going to activate whether we want it to or not. But we'll hit the barrier," Hana said. "Maybe that's what it wants," Woojin said quietly. "Maybe this barrier is designed to interact with FTL technology." Before anyone could respond, the Soul's Pride jumped into faster-than-light travel. But instead of jumping around the barrier, the ship shot straight toward it. The crew braced for impact, expecting their ship to be destroyed, but something amazing happened instead. The energy barrier, which had seemed solid and impenetrable, tore open like cloth. The human ship passed through easily, leaving a hole in the barrier that quickly closed behind them. On the other side, space looked different. Instead of empty darkness, they saw the glow of many stars, space stations, and what looked like entire civilizations spread across multiple solar systems. "My God," Daehyun whispered. "We're not in human space anymore." "Captain, I'm picking up massive energy signatures," Boram reported. "Ships, space stations, planets with artificial structures. This is a huge civilization. Are they detecting us?" Daehyun asked. Before anyone could answer, Hana's communication board lit up with signals. "Sir, we're being scanned by multiple sources. Whatever's out there, they know we're here." Far away on a Velkan border station, sensor technician Yil Nexus stared at his instruments in shock. For over 1,000 years, the Great Barrier had protected the Velkan Empire. Nothing had ever broken through it. Nothing could break through it. The barrier was powered by the energy of an entire star system, but his sensors clearly showed that something had just torn through the barrier like it was made of paper. "Admiral," Yil called out. "Admiral Keth Voran, you need to see this." Admiral Voran, a tall alien with dark blue skin and forearms, rushed to the sensor station. The Velkans had ruled this part of space for centuries, crushing any species that opposed them. They were used to being the strongest, the most advanced. "What is it, technician?" the Admiral asked. "Something came through the barrier, sir. One ship, but it broke through our defenses like they weren't even there." Admiral Voran stared at the readings. This was impossible. The barrier had cost the Empire enormous resources to build. It had protected them from external threats for generations. How could one ship just punch through it? "What kind of technology are we looking at?" he asked. "Unknown, sir. I've never seen energy patterns like these. The ship's design is completely foreign. It's not like any species in our database." Admiral Voran felt a chill run through him. The Velkan Empire had conquered dozens of worlds and enslaved hundreds of alien species. They had detailed records of every known civilization in this region of space. If this ship was truly unknown, it meant they were dealing with something completely new. And if this unknown species could break through the Great Barrier so easily, what else could they do? "Send an immediate alert to High Command," Admiral Voran ordered. "Tell them we have a potential invasion. Unknown hostile ship has breached the Great Barrier. Request immediate military support." "Yes, sir," Yil responded, his hands shaking as he sent the message. Meanwhile, on the Soul's Pride, Captain Daehyun was trying to make sense of their situation. They had been exploring empty space, and now they were surrounded by signs of a vast alien civilization. "Woojin, what can you tell me about these aliens?" he asked. "From what I can scan, they're definitely advanced. Their technology is different from ours, but powerful. I'm reading multiple space stations, orbital shipyards, and what looks like military installations." "Military installations?" Boram asked. "How many?" "A lot. This isn't just a peaceful civilization, Captain. These people are heavily armed." Daehyun looked at the star map on his screen. They were far from home in unknown territory, surrounded by aliens who probably weren't happy about their unexpected arrival. "Hana, try to establish communication. Use the universal peace signals. Let them know we're not here to cause trouble." "Yes, sir," Hana said, but her voice was nervous. "Captain, what if they don't want to talk?" Daehyun looked around at his crew. They were all good people, experts in their fields, but they were just an exploration ship. They weren't prepared for first contact with a hostile alien empire. "Then we'll have to hope our ship is fast enough to get us home," he said quietly. But as more and more alien ships appeared on their sensors, moving toward their position, Daehyun began to wonder if they would ever see Earth again.